The world is a messed up place. This happened back in early 2015. I was a 19-year-old guy living in a rather bad area of Portland, Oregon. Even though there were occasionally some belligerent homeless people and drug addicts, violent muggings were very rare, and most of the city felt very safe even at night. One of my best friends turned 21, and we decided to go bar hopping and then go clubbing. I was in a group of about a dozen other people, and 3 of which were my roommates. Unfortunately for me, I was the only one in my group who was either under the legal drinking age or did not have a fake ID card. This meant I was unable to enter the bar. However, to my luck, there was a nice Mediterranean restaurant right across the street from the bar, which I ended up going to. I stayed there for more than an hour, and then I was ready to leave. I've done that walk many times, even at night, so I was never scared. Until this night, of course. From my apartment, my roommates took an Uber to the bar. This meant I would have to walk back since I didn't have Uber and my phone battery was running low. The distance back to my apartment was about 3 miles, and the time was already close to midnight, and I would be reaching my apartment by approximately 1 a.m. I decided to walk the distance anyway, since I hadn't been to the gym and thought it would be good exercise. I began my walk and passed by lots of drunks. Even though some of the drunks would shout things at me, I have never felt unsafe or threatened by them, so I was okay. However, the last mile to my apartment was through a darkly lit park that can be scary at night. Not because of any crime, but because there was only one streetlight in that stretch of road. I reached this somewhat creepy area at around 12:30. As I descend down the dark and narrow streets, I notice a black Chevy Silverado speed past me and slow down as he passes. The truck almost comes to a stop, but then decides to drive ahead. I begin to shrug it off at first. However, this is when things start to get creepy. After I walk nearly a quarter mile forwards, the Chevy comes down the opposite direction and does the same thing, when the truck slows down and almost comes to a halt. I begin to panic but not openly show it, and I pretend to ignore the vehicle, but my instincts tell me something isn't right. The truck then starts to proceed, but this time I cannot keep calm. I was in the middle of a dark and isolated park with no streetlights, and there likely wouldn't be a single person in sight. After I walk about 500 feet, I begin to look in horror as the same pickup truck comes flying towards me and suddenly puts a brake about 100 feet behind me. One man about twice my age opens the passenger door and leaps out of the truck carrying what looks like a hockey club. I look behind and lock eyes with him, and he gives me the most haunting and sinister look that I've ever seen from a real person. He begins to yell, "Get out my sight or I'll mess you up, mud slime!" Note, I am of Indian origin and have brown skin, and mud slime was a racial slur directed towards Muslims. As I was planning my escape, I remember how there was a wooded area between the park and my apartment. Where I was, I could cut across the park and go through some woods. Then right across the woods was my apartment. This was smart because I had taken that shortcut during the day and the truck would not be able to cut through the woods. Just as I ran through those words, I heard another yell in the distance, some more choice words thrown my way, but this time by another guy walking on the opposite direction of the sidewalk I was on. I then see another large man walking his German Shepherd towards me. After there, the drunk driver then started running at us with his hockey club, and I made a run for it. I dart towards the woods. Unfortunately, the truck driver decides not to chase up and gets back in his truck. I reach my apartment 5 minutes later, and at the parking lot of my apartment, I happen to see the guy walking his dog. He looks like a roughed-up bodybuilder, so I was a little afraid of him too. However, we had a pleasant conversation, and I begin to head up to my apartment and look at my apartment window. To my disgust and horror, I see the black Chevy drive by my apartment, then leave. My friends came back home close to 3 a.m., just after I went to bed that night. Thankfully, I never saw that creep again, and I moved out of that apartment a few months later. After this incident, I avoid walking alone in dark spots and isolated areas at night. To the stalker driving a black pickup though, I'd rather we not meet again.